Yes, indeed. Peace to the family, peace, love, and light. Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Pablo. Thank you. We are gathered here for another amazing episode of Mineral Ministries. Um, this is epilogue or episode 136, and today's sermon is titled Reversal of Fortunes. All right, peace. And it also inaugurates the fact that we are now in a retrograde, right? And what is the beauty and the benefit that one can derive from a retrograde season? People like to castigate retrograde, and they love speaking about the potential negative impacts of a retrograde. But what are some of the things that we can look in our past and extrapolate, what I'm saying, into our present condition that can potentially benefit us? So, as always, with the proper custom and tradition, in accordance with the etymology of what the word quote unquote God means, when we look it up, it means libation, it means invocation, and it also means supplication. And supplication could be something as simple as lighting incense, right? Making the venue a little bit more sweet and subtle, if you would, for the creative spirit to come in. Okay. So we're going to light our incense. This is some Palo Santo. Feel me? And also, we've been reading these reports about certain frequencies that are being utilized, um, or science has caught up on what spirituality, Eastern philosophies and spirituality has known for the longest. And that is these particular frequencies or these incantations or these chants have been very successful in reducing stress, right? And as we speak about life, as we speak about elongating the process of life, and it's not only living longer, but it's also living in a particular stasis that is conducive to our health and our development. Like, you don't want to be here forever and be unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? So there is an induced state that is very productive when it comes to our health, and that's what's going to keep you here longer, right? Reducing stress on yourself, reducing stress on your vessel. Okay, these are the things that are indicative for our time here to be well spent. So I want to play about a minute of this particular chant, this mantra, because it's something that's reductive. It reduces stress, and I want us to go into this conversation definitely being stress free, right? Let's see here. Yes, but it's also a custom and a tradition that we used on KTL radio, and hey, you are now rocking with the best. So if it's not broke, why fix it? You dig what I'm saying? So we're going to get into this particular mantra. This is Om Mani Padme Om. This is going to help unify our masculine and feminine and bring us into a state of stasis. So let's take about a minute, all right, and get some of these vibes. Some of these vibes.
เป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโหอมมานีเป็นเมโห
Okay, family. I'll keep that vibration playing at a very low deliberate tone in the background so we can always just once again induce a state of peace. Om Mani Padme Om. Um, if you ever want to bring some peace into your space, it might be confusion. You might be at a loss of words or have brain fog. This is a beautiful mantra, to fill your space up with. This is an amazing and wonderful way, once again, like I said, to reduce stress. And we want to operate from a stress-free place. We want to always make sure that the decisions that we're making are decisions that we're making with a clear mind. Um, when we engage or interact with information, we always want to make sure that we're approaching it with a clean slate, and we don't necessarily any objectives going into something, because that is going to is going to change the outcome. You know. So today, earlier this rising, I was in communication with a good brother of mine. Well, your video being stopped. Please don't share any more recorded music. All right. I've been getting these messages sent to me about I'm at my limit for utilizing recorded music and things of that nature. And I'm not even utilizing any music other than they'll be like, I guess they're saying that I'm dropping bars. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're saying. But nonetheless, you have the resonant frequency of that mantra, and you could just chant it to yourself inside your mind. And again, if we could lend some tips towards mantras and manifestation, the strongest way to create a resonant frequency with these particular mantras is that when you incantate them to yourself, you want to lock the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth so you can create a circuit, and that circuit then creates what's called the microcosmic orbit, and then we're rotating that particular frequency and hitting our nodal points on that journey. And these are the things that are going to light up your vessel. These are the things that are going to amplify your being. These are the things that are going to induce a state of you being in alignment, right? To create that state of what they call theta, where almost everything that you're doing is going to be magnetized to you. It's almost going to be like you're in a flow. And Shout out to Max B. I actually thought that I was going to name today's program "You Can't Stop the Wave," right? um, the if you're not familiar with the brother Max B, he just came home from a rather lengthy stint that he was serving time for, right? And shout out to Max B, and shout out to everybody that's on the wave or what have you. Wonderful segue. Like I said earlier, this rising I was building with a good brother that I refer to as Jabril. The world might know him as 19 Keys. And the good brother had just gotten back from old Amsterdam. Um, and he was in New Amsterdam, which is New York. So he had just got back from Amsterdam over in Europe on the continent, and he just got back into the States. And we were touching base and comparing some notes. And it's always good when I get to speak to the brother because we've never had a bad conversation. And the brother, he has an amazing perspective. And I always love communicating with people that can always see the silver lining in any situation. And those are the people that are genuinely invested in our victory as a people, as a community, um, and you know, just taking a general outlook, and as well as people who have held tight and maintained the lessons, the things that we were raised in, and the things that we were raised around. I wholeheartedly believe, and I want to reiterate that we were always prepared for a time like this. We were made for a time like this. We literally were made for this time, and then it's an amazing time. It's a wonderful time, even if we see that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. You know what I mean? When I spoke earlier, a few weeks ago, I was investigating and asking, you know, in the midst of what we see with white folks is always so rapturous. They're always speaking about the rapture, even if it appears to us that we think that they have everything, right? And again, that's our sight. We're on the outside looking in, and you think that they got everything. They don't got what you got, so they'll never have everything. And that's what they want and covet the most. They don't have a cosmic connection. You know what I'm saying? They don't have an insurance that the longevity on this planet can be everlasting. So why would they want to be here? They always seem as if they want to leave. You know what I'm saying? They always seem as if they want to leave, right? When I looked at what can be melanated people's eschatology, right? And we'll go and we'll just do a real quick refresher on what the word eschatology is, because it's an important word and it keeps popping up nowadays. And there's reasons for that, right? So these words that won't go away, we just need to wrap our minds around them and then own them. The branch of theology that is concerned with the end of the world or humankind, a belief or a doctrine concerning the ultimate or final things, such as death, the destiny of humanity, the second coming, or the last judgment. That's from a biblical perspective. The doctrine of the last or final things as death, judgment, or the events therewith connected. And although I don't necessarily prescribe to end times, if you will, shout out to my brother King Simon. The other day on his program, I said I'm an end time prophet, not an end time. end time prophet. Um, we are here, we're in time. Our prophecies deal with things that are, you know, speaking to the day and the time that we're in. And we also give ourselves permission to project into the future. So I'm not an end time. I cannot conceive of a time when man was not, nor can I conceive of a time where we would no longer potentially be. It's just not in my mental framework to see finality, right? But as a Scorpio, I do understand resets and I do understand transference, right? Transmutation. There's a transference of energy that happens at finality, which some people call death, that is not necessarily death. It's just transformation, right? So I'm an end time prophet. So we are in these amazing times of change and transformation. What I don't get is that if we were prepared for this, why is it catching us off guard? If this is only thing that the master teacher spoke of, why is it so sudden and abrupt? And what I'm saying is that the black man, for lack of a better term, the melanated man's eschatology would be the theology of time and the fall of America. Let me say this again. The eschatology of the melanated man would be the theology of time and the fall of America. Now, these were tomes that were given to us by Elijah Muhammad, right? And it spoke about uh, these prophetic musings about being in time, right? And watching the end times for a particular set people or a system which will bring about the opportunity for a new age or a new day or a renewal or a rebirth or a reset. And that is where we're at right now, right? We are at a amazing opportunity, okay, to do the things that our elders and our ancestors always initially prepared us for, and that was to do for self, right? That was to be the stewards of this particular plane of existence, and that was to be the civilizers of the uncivilized, if you will. And we're living in those days, in those particular times. And what we need to do for our own mental health, what we need to do for our own mental determination, what we need to do in order to remain looking forward and not necessarily looking backwards to a degree where we get frozen in salt, like Lot's wife, right? Is that we have to remind ourselves, what information are we extrapolating from, right? What pond are you sipping from? If you're sipping from a septic well that belongs to these people that they bathe in, right? The only thing that you're going to extract from that is misery, fear, fragility, right? Their end time prophecies can't be yours. You cannot sign up and subscribe to what the trajectory of their particular quote unquote future may potentially look like, because that's not your lot, right? That's not your destiny. Yes, that's the well of a swine, and that's not where you necessarily, that's not the trough that you drink from. That's not the well that you bathe in or that you drink from. You know what I'm saying? So the mistake that we have consistently made is that we find ourselves, bathing in ponds that don't belong to us. We find ourselves, destiny swapping. Shout out to the sister Neftali, as she, brought that term and that concept into our understanding. We find ourselves destiny swapping with people who we hold company with, that appear to be our neighbors, but might not necessarily be our neighbors, right? Our destiny is not their destiny. Our lot in life is not their lot in life. You know what I'm saying? I do wholeheartedly know that the end outcome is not going to look the same for both of us. Okay, salute. You got some of them pumpkin seeds? Dope. So here we are, epilogue 136, reversal of fortunes. Once again, I am your brother, Pablo, And this is Mineral Ministries. Shout out to Lion Gates Ministries, right? And today we'll be looking at the quote unquote all of the scriptures that resonate with 11:9, which is a reversal of 9/11. And that conversation has been in the news as of lately because of the election in New York City of a Muslim by the name of Mandami, right? And it's interesting, Mandami represents Obama 2.0. And what Obama 2.0 in essence represents is a return and a restoration of hope. So once again, the Democrats are selling opiates to the people, right? And a opiate is the same as a dopiate or opiate. And an opiate is dope. And hope is dope, right? And some people say, we can do without the dope. And then other people, especially those who understand astrology and this whole aspect of the Piscean influence, they say that the dope is very necessary. Nonetheless, right, we are at this particular point in time where we can see the trajectory, right, going in different directions. And the decision making is on the back of melanated people because they are partially majority wise responsible once again for casting their votes and casting their lots, right? And they were almost entirely, well, not entirely responsible for this mayorship, but they were the majority of voters, as almost they always are. Let's look at the etymology of the word vote. Shout out to my brother, um what's my brother's name, Adika Butler, the master teacher, the master orator, and brother does things with his pen, that very few of us are capable of doing. Um, and yeah, he's an amazing author. He's an amazing thought provoking thought leader. And I read an article that he published recently. Shout out to Substack. He's on Substack. Shout out to my brother Hitsu also on Substack, right? Follow his Substack as well. The Sovereign Identity Architect. I'm over there on Substack. I gotta get my profile up or what have you. But yeah, some amazing authors. A lot of women pushing that pen over on Substack. Highly recommend, you know, that we go over there and check some of this out. They doing their thing. They doing their thing over on Substack. Not eschatology, meaning let's go to eschatology. No, not eschatology. We're going to an etymology dictionary. We're going to an etymology dictionary, and we're going to still look up vote, right? We're looking up the etymology of the word vote so we can get the underlying essence of what this word actually means. So we can stop hoeing ourselves. And I'm just saying, let's power to purpose. If you know specifically what it is that you're doing, then that empowers what you're doing even more so because you're being that much more intentional. And the power comes by way of the intent. And as long as we are being clear about our intentions, then that is maximizing what it is that we're doing. You feel me? So when we're voting, what is that? I always say voting is like purchasing powers, like you're casting, right? So a vote is an extension of your own powers of a spellcaster, if you will, right? You're giving permission for someone to embody you in service of your intentions. Let's look at the etymology. It says formal expressions of one's wish or choice with regard to a proposal, candidate, etc. From the Latin votum, which is a vow, a wish, promise to a God, solemn pledge, dedication. Noun use of the neuter votus, past particulate of volere, to promise, to dedicate, right? So it's a vow. It's a vow. You feel me? It's a vow, promise to a God, solemn pledge, and a dedication. Okay? It holds some weight. They love saying it, granted, they say that it's a ritual. What's not a ritual? Right? Yes, so a vote is to cast a lot, right? And a lot is a spell, right? So you're casting lots. And our people have been the ones doing that successfully, right? And we're casting lots, and the results of our casting, we're not molding our cast specifically to serve us, almost like how a golem would. And I don't I don't want to speak about politicians in that regard, but that's what a politician is, right? I asked the other day on live, and this was for the people that are still showing up, to work, that are not getting paid. And I look at them rather like heroes. And somebody said, well, what if we look at them like hoes? Because they're being pimped by a system, and they're perpetuating the pimpery of the system by just not unplugging and walking away and saying enough is enough, but still showing up in service to humanity by their bleeding hearts. This is what they call liberals, right? Because Republicans wouldn't do it. Only bleeding heart liberals would. And majority of our people that are getting duped in the process are the ones that show up for service. They're not going to get paid. So do we look at them as heroes, or do we look at them as hoes? So if you ever play Triangle Strategy, it's an RPG game, and they do a vote by the weight of a scale. Interesting. You know what I'm saying? So these are interesting times that we're in. It's a wonderful opportunity to make observations about what exactly is power. And again, like I said, under this influence, this cosmic influence of Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto means transformation. Aquarius means the world. It means humanity. It means we the people. So we're watching the transformation of we the people in real time. And it's very impactful. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot more to go. I don't know if we're shortchanging ourselves as people per se, but we're going through 20 tumultuous years until 2044 of unprecedented change and transformation. Do I want the country to come to a standstill? I mean, that's interesting. I don't particularly want the country to come to a standstill, but I don't know if there's any other answer or outcome. And me looking at the administration, I'm left with no other I'm left with no other option in my observation but to think that they may want the country to come to a standstill purposefully. So, but my thing is, once again, for those of us who sign up for melanated eschatology, if this is what the prophecy is, if this is what the foretelling is, how is it ever going to get done if we keep getting in the way of it? You know what I'm saying? How is it ever going to how is it ever going to come to an end if we're always the ones prolonging it? We love saying that it was built on our back, and we're the ones that continuously show up, right? With big backs, saying out, nah, son, we got it. When it's on its last leg, who props it up? We do. Who benefits from it? That remains to be seen. Because we love, our main talking points are now this. Oh, white folks get more public assistance than we do. Then whose fault is that? Because it we can categorically say that it was made for you, But then you don't want to own that because you're shamed by it. But the blood of your martyr was spilled, and what came out of that was these social programs. Then they're saying, oh, they get more bread if they got a 3-family household or a 4-family household than melanated people do. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? And is that a flex point? It's not a flex point. They manipulated a system that was set aside for you, for your, not necessarily your equality, but your equanimity. You know what I'm saying? Your equanimity, for you to have what's considered to be a level playing field, but it's been manipulated, and they're running to the bank with it once again. And we're pointing it out, and we're thinking it's a flex point to point it out. No, the flex point is that you've been hustled for your shit. Just like we talking about in this Bible, somebody is running around with your cloth on, pretending to be you and receiving more benefits than you, and you're the ones that got the covenant, but you have no ability to force it because our job has just been relegated to policing how other people use our magic better than we do. So let me get into this sermon. This is Genesis 11:9, and again, reversal of fortune. 11:9 is 9/11. Just like November, the prefix Nov means 9. Just like the prefix Des means 10. Just like the prefix Oct in October means 8, and Sept means 7. Right? Yeah, the Eminem effect. You created the art form, they exploited it. You know what I'm saying? They running with it to the bank and being called the greatest at it. Feel me? That's not a flex point. That's not a flex point. Yet you telling me that somebody snatched your chain? The Tower of Babel. So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all of the earth, and they stopped building the city. Oh, let me do the preference. Let me do the disclaimer. Mineral Ministries is non-denominational, mostly conversational, sometimes confrontational. Right? No audio. Please help me out, y'all, because somebody just called me. God damn it. Somebody straight. Mm, mm, mm. All right, I gotta start again. God damn it. Is it still? Is it? Yeah. Shout out to the YouTube family. I'm speaking Instagram family. Somebody called me and knocked the audio out over here. Instagram, do y'all still? I'm still no audio. Still can't hear me. That's so unfortunate. All right. Yeah. My bad, y'all. They man, that's so crazy. That's so crazy. That's so unfortunate. I gotta do this over again on Instagram. I just don't wanna I don't wanna delete what I recorded so far. So just give me a second. Yeah, YouTube is straight. Shout out to the YouTube family. Let me just get them real right real quick. My apologies, y'all. I'm gonna get with it. Yeah, boy, I tell you. All right, do D and D. I should do D and D thing, right? Again, Shout out, I'm back on Instagram for the IG family. All right. And yes, thank you, YouTube family. All right. We holding it down. We over here and y'all can hear me crystal clear. All right. So I'm gonna keep going and what have you. And the family over on IG, they're just going to have to catch up with the rhythmic flow because we have to keep it moving. All right. We're already about 30 minutes in, and I've been monologuing for quite some time. Okay. I've been monologuing for quite some time, so we got to get it going. All right. So again, this is Mineral Ministries, Lion Gates Ministries. We are non-denominational, mostly conversational, sometimes confrontational, right? And this is our honest quest just to get some questions answered scripturally that have not been, these answers haven't been provided. So we've taken it upon ourselves to do these deep dives. Okay. Uh Genesis. Yeah. Oh, they hating over there. I'm sorry. They hating over there. And we ain't gonna blame, it wasn't the system. It was a troll. It was trolling me nonstop. I don't know what's going on with people's mental health these days. You know what I'm saying? I do not know what's going on with people's mental health, but it's deteriorating for whatever reason, right? Let's get into it. Genesis, all right? We find ourselves in the Tower of Babel, okay? This is unprecedented. Just give me a second, y'all, man. This shit crazy. Oh, man. Why, oh, why, oh, why? So the Lord scattered them from there over the face of all of the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, for there the Lord confused the language of the whole world, and from that place the Lord scattered them over the face of all of the earth. Okay? And we'll do a cross reference to this. Acts 2:6. And when this song rang out, a crowd came together in bewilderment because each one heard them speaking his own language. Astounded and amazed, they asked, are not all of these who are speaking Galileans? How is it then that each of us hears them in his own native language? Right? Oh, they really hating over there. They are really hating, which is not cool at all. Oh man, give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Why, oh, why? Mineral Ministries, episode 136, part 2. Stop hating. Yes, we're going to rebuke them and we're going to keep it moving for part 2. Let's get right back into Genesis. So, the Tower of Babel is the particular scripture that coincides with Genesis. This is how 11:9 opens up, speaking about the Tower of Babel. And, one of the main things that we are being impacted by as a people is mistranslation, miscommunication, lack thereof, right? Or people attempting to interpret things that they don't necessarily understand, right? Or us getting falsified interpretations of scripture because of the transliteration when they put it into when they change it from Aramaic to Greek, when they change it from Greek to Latin, when they change it from Latin to English, it's losing its substance. It's losing something. It doesn't have the same effectiveness. It doesn't have the same bite. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, you know, man, what the heck? Whew. I was just about to cut the feed off over there because I don't know what's going on IG. They just totally sabotaged that live, which is unfortunate. Revelation 17:15. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitutes were seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. You know, that's very deep. Um, this whole aspect of people speaking different languages and miscommunication, you know, but language being one of the main barriers when the colonizer comes, they tear people's tongues out, figuratively and literally, because if they could compromise the communication, then they can reprogram a people. They can denude you of your history. A lot of these things take place when communication is compromised, right? And as I'm saying that, y'all gotta come over to YouTube because I'm gonna cut this live because it's just not working on Instagram anymore for whatever reason. Um, I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's no longer working. So we gotta do away with that and keep it moving. Unfortunately, yes, and we are in retrograde is one of the reasons that we named this program today Reversal of Fortunes. But we don't want to capitulate to what the curse of retrograde is. We want to definitely stand on top of this energy, right? It was going great. It was all good just a minute ago, but nonetheless, here we are. So let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving, y'all. We're in Exodus 11:9. The plague on the firstborn foretold. And all of these officials of yours will welcome and bow before me, saying, go you and all of the people who follow you. After that, I will depart. And hot with anger, Moses left Pharaoh's presence. The Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron did all of these wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the Israelites go out of his land. And we spoke about this in previous classes, and we'll reiterate it. You know, in that regard, was it Pharaoh's fault? Because Pharaoh attempted to comply. He attempted to be in compliance to the commands and the demands of Yahweh, even though that wasn't his God, which is a whole nother issue, right? Because if it was not his God, where were the Commissions able to extract so many wonders from? And I'm not just speaking about the things that they built. I'm speaking about the abundance that they were able to live in, not just riches. They were able to feed their people and other people's people. They were able to safeguard and take care of the children of the Most High when the Most High can no longer tend to them or care for them. How did the land of Israel fall into famine, but Kemet was in abundance, right? So I mean, these can be philosophical questions and issues or what have you, but it's almost like it again. I'm when I'm reading this stuff, I'm coming across gaslighting, and I'm like, this sounds like galactic gaslighting on a whole nother level. Feel me? And it's giving me Trump, like the way that he gaslights other nations and what have you. And even if they want to comply, he only wants to embarrass them and take what they have or destroy the things that they have created that he's jealous of. Yes, it's entrapment, and these weird behaviors that we look at, is not giving big dog energy. You know what I'm saying? It's not giving big dog energy. Romans 9:17. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, I raised you up for this very purpose, that I might display my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all of the earth. Right? So it's almost like, in order to bring himself in accordance with this narrative, and this narrative is not recorded in history, mind you. This narrative is not, we are just here running with a narrative like most narratives that we run with out of this book. Some of them can be confirmed by historical accounts, but this is definitely one that's not, has not been recorded. This has not been recorded in any history to be co-signed, to be like, yeah, that's what happened. This is not recorded. So it's almost like, in order to compare themselves to what was going on in Kemet, in order to get on equal footing, they had to hate on them, and they had to castigate them and demonize them to a degree where they can find, once again, equanimity in a story that existed without their existence. Because the Commissions already had their history, thousands, if not 10,000s of years prior to the appearance of sheep herders. No disrespect. Leviticus 11:2, 11:9, clean and unclean animals. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Of all of the creatures that live in the water, whether in the seas or in the streams, you may not eat anything. You may eat anything with fins and scales, but the following amongst all of the teeming life and creatures in the water are detestable to you. Everything in the seas or streams that does not have fins or scales. Hmm. Let's do a cross reference, right? Fins or scales. Do octopuses have fins or scales, y'all? Yeah, which eels, which animals that come out of the ocean are haram? Which one of them? Crab legs gotta go. Yeah, do crab legs have fins and scales? Niggas be fucking some crabs up. They don't. Then how do they be selling crab in the bottom of the fish fry in the church on Sundays? Man, oh man. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving, right? We got questions. They got answers. Numbers 11:9. The complaints of the people. Okay. All right. Both. I'm asking. Crabs don't have fins or scales on them either, but neither do octopus. So what we doing here? Cockroaches of the sea. Do shrimps have fins or scales? Okay. Same. Shellfish don't have fins or scales. I'm just saying. These foods are haram according to the tradition, right? According to the tradition. Peace, God. I'm doing my sermon. I'll hit you back. All right. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, they hit my phone up today. Bottom feeders, right? But once again, we we're gonna show some grace and not go too hard. Somebody said it's the Old Testament. And you know, once again, do you throw out everything that goes with the Old Testament, right? Herein lies the problem. Herein lies the issue. Uh, Moses was responsible for the dietary law. When quote unquote Jesus comes in the New Testament, there's things that he changes with his new covenant. And one of the things that they said, uh, the changes that were made was the Mosaic law in terms of dietary, right? Or things that are kosher versus non-kosher. You know, I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah, everybody doesn't obviously prescribe to that for whatever reasons, right? Um, yeah, Pauline Christians, Pauline Christianity subscriber says Old Testaments and they follow New Testament. Granted, right? The complaints of the people in Numbers 11:9. The people walked around and gathered it, ground it on a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar, then boiled it in a cooking pot or shaped it into cakes. It tasted like pastry baked with fine oil. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna will fall with it. So they're speaking about the manna. And what possibly do you think that they're speaking about when they speak about manna? There's been a lot of different interpretations. You know what I'm saying? Some people say the mushrooms are manna. Other people say that orange gold is manna. Other people say that it's something. It was a metaphorical or metaphysical bread. You know what I'm saying? That no longer is produced. Some people just say it's the morning dew, right? There's so many things that people say or what have you. What do you guys think manna is? The people walked around and gathered it, ground it on a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar, then boiled it in a cooking pot or shaped it into cakes. It tasted like pastry baked with fine oil. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna will fall with it, right? So manna in the form of spores, right? Manna in the form of spores are the only thing that I've seen where I will go and mow the lawn, right? And then I will come back the next day and there would be mushrooms sprouted, you know, and and they're coming from nowhere. You like, how did this happen? These are fully formed mushrooms. These are not even baby mushrooms, right? What's the etymology of manna? Let's look it up. Old English borrowing from late Latin manna, from Greek manna, from Hebrew man, probably literally substance exuded by the tamarisk tree, but used in Greek and Latin specifically with reference to the substance miraculously supplied to the children of Israel during their wandering in the wilderness. The Hebrew word often is referred to man, a gift, meaning spiritual nourishment, is attested from late 14th century. Generalized sense of something provided unexpectedly is from the 1590s, right? So they're saying, you know, the etymology of it from the Hebrew comes from man. And interestingly, if you look at fungus, fungus is the particular organism on the planet that is between man, the kingdom of the human kingdom, if you will, and plant kingdom. Because a fungus is neither or, but it's in the middle of it. And it would be the nearest thing to us as an organism on the planet would be fungus, interestingly enough, right? And it's hella old. And and I would be interested to know, like, because they don't speak about mushrooms throughout the Bible. We just hear about manna. Why wouldn't they ever speak about mushrooms? And there's an entire book on this that I read back in the day called The Sacred Cross. right? And the Sacred Cross does an amazing job of tying a lot of psychedelic experiences to stories in the Bible, and they show you that there was an entire priesthood, right, throughout multiple traditions, not just the Judaic traditions or not just Christianity, but every quote unquote religion and tradition can be tried and traced back to psychedelic experiences that they had with different substances. So the book is called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross by John M. Allegro, right? And that's just for your personal studying preferences. If you want to go a little bit deeper into the research, that is where you can qualify that research best by doing the knowledge. Okay, delete that comment. Yeah, it all came out like spam. The live link is not live, so I'm gonna erase these. But that is the name of the book. If you wanted to know, where this information is coming from, and it's not just freestyling or musing. There's a lot of evidence and proof that speaks directly to it. And in the esoteric circles, they would say that the manna from heaven was ormus gold, the powdered white gold. Okay, let's go to the next one. Y'all all right? Let's do a cross reference before we move on. Exodus 16:4. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. Each day the people are to go out and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test whether or not they will follow my instructions. Okay. Exodus 16:14. When the layer of dew had evaporated, there were thin flakes on the desert floor, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they asked one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. So Moses told them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. And I guess maybe that's where some of the ormus comparisons come from, because ormus can be found like in Utah, where they have an equivalent to what's considered to be the Dead Sea that they have over there. They got something in Colorado that's similar to that, where a lot of trace minerals are derived to come from. The gold that I utilize in monatomic gold comes from the Utah sources, right? They're able to extract ormus gold from the gold content that was present in plants, and these particular plants have been compressed over time to formulate trace minerals. Okay. Deuteronomy 11:9, God's great blessings. You shall therefore keep every commandment I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and possess the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. They're speaking about Palestine. And so that you may live long in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land that you are entering to possess is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and irrigated on foot like a vegetable garden. Mm. Cross reference to the double book Airbnb. Exodus 3:8. I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. God damn. There was a lot of people that was already in the overflowing land of abundance. And then here comes a whole nother person that was promised all of that land. What you supposed to do with the people that was already there? I guess we're finding out in real time, huh? Joshua 11:9. Conquest of the northern cities. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Israel, who struck them down and pursued them all the way to greater Sidon and Mizrephoth Maim, and eastward as the valley of Mithpah. They struck them down, leaving no survivors. Joshua treated them as the Lord had told them. He hamstrung their horses and burnt up their chariots. At that time, Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword, because Hazor was formerly the head of all of these kingdoms. Right? So they was running down. They was spinning the block. You know what I'm saying? They was putting points on the board and they was washing them up. You feel me? They was washing them and their animals up. No mercy whatsoever. And this was told to them by God, right? That was some hella loud they was hitting. Deuteronomy 7:2. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you to defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction, make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy, right? So they go from thou shalt not kill and to love thy neighbor to when you wash them up, wash their children, their women, their animals, and no blade of grass should be left standing. And we wonder why, right? That we're seeing the things that we see around the world in the name of God. And it don't just play in Palestine like that. We're seeing it everywhere that ancient, antiquated, melanated specific people are at that they say is the cradles of civilizations. Let's take a look. Palestine, of course, Sudan, Congo, Ethiopia, Eritrea, okay? Um, all the way, if you fast forward and even come over here to this continent, right? You see it, you see it, you see it. Feel me? There has to be a deeper introspective reason that we're seeing the things that we're seeing. Okay, let's do a cross reference, then we'll keep it moving. Moses replied, oh, this is Numbers 32:20. Moses replied, if you will do this, if you will arm yourself before the Lord for battle, and if every one of your armed men crosses the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out before him, then when the land is subdued before the Lord, you may return and be free of obligation to the Lord and to Israel. And this land will belong to you as a possession before the Lord. So it's like, imagine if you were being told this. Imagine if you were being whispered this in your ear. Imagine if your parents were the ones that was instructing you that just what you were born to do, right? What would your approach be? What would your attitude be? Right? Would you look like a Zionist to us? I think so, right? And this is the dangers of you not having your own narrative or your own eschatology and the fervent zealotry that other people that have your eschatology or your scripture in their possession, look what they're willing to do to fulfill it. Saul defeats the Ammonites. This is 1 Samuel 11:9. And when Saul numbered them at Bezek, there were 300,000 Israelites and 30,000 men of Judah, of which they, again, always made a distinction. Right? So, which one are you, family? Are you the people of Judah or are you the Israelites? Because them is two different people. They're two different people. So they said to the messengers who had come, tell the men of Jabesh Gilead, deliverance will be yours tomorrow by the time the sun is hot. And when the messengers relayed this to the men of Jabesh, they rejoiced. Then the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, tomorrow we will come out and you can do with us whatever seems good to you. Nah, fam. Nah, dang, what's up? Judges 21:8 as a cross reference. So they asked, which one of the tribes of Israel failed to come up before the Lord at Mizpah? And in fact, no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. For when the people were counted, none of the residents of Jabesh Gilead were there. So the congregation sent 12,000 of their most valiant men and commanded them, go and put the sword to those living in Jabesh Gilead, including women and children. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? What I'm like is if this was in scripture in the Old Testament, right? So this is BC times. If this is how God got down in antiquity, and the nearer to his origins are, the purer he is. If this is what he was doing back then, right? Then why are we such up in arms by what we see him doing or commanding his people to do today? Just saying. 2 Samuel's 11:9, and I'm not making excuses for genocidal campaigns or what have you. Again, I mainly do this so we can better observe the narrative and we can put a perspective. We can put it in perspective, right? If there's a precedent, you know what I'm saying, and if there's a commandment, if you were them, would you lean on it? Because I know that I would more than likely, right? Just to keep it honest with you. Anyway, 2 Samuel's 11:9. David and Bathsheba. Then he said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king followed him. But Uriah slept at the door of the palace with all of his master's servant. He did not go down to his house. And David was told, Uriah did not go home. Haven't you just arrived from a journey? David asked Uriah, why didn't you go home? So this is David lining up his competition. 1 Kings 15:5. For David had done what was right in the eyes of the Lord and had not turned aside from anything the Lord commanded all of the days of his life, except in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. Right. So David saw a woman that he wanted, and she was married. Right. He observed Bathsheba when she was taking a bath, and he lined up her husband and sent him to the front lines of war to get him clipped so he can get the booty. 2 Kings 11:9. Joash anointed king in Judah. You must surround the king with weapons in hand, and anyone who approaches the ranks must be put to death. You must stay close to the king wherever he goes. So the commanders of hundreds did everything that Jehoiada the priest had ordered. Each of them took his men, those coming on duty on the Sabbath and those going off duty, and came to Jehoiada the priest. Then the priest gave the commanders of hundreds the spears and shields of King David from the house of the Lord. Okay. 1 Chronicles 11:9. David conquers Jerusalem. He built up the city around it from the supporting terraces to the surrounding wall, while Joab restored the rest of the city, and David became greater and greater, for the Lord of hosts was with him. You know what I'm saying? So while he was plotting and planning, he was gaining favors in the eyes of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? He had some credit and he was willing to use it, right? For his desires, which were based on his sexual wants. Very scorpionic, right? And it leads directly into his son Solomon. We'll catch up, trust me. 1 Samuel 16:13. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day forward. Then Samuel set out and went to Ramah. 2 Samuel 3:1, right? Now the war between the house of Saul and the house of David was protracted, and David grew stronger and stronger, while the house of Saul grew weaker and weaker. And again, I really think that it's worthwhile that we make this observation. And one day I might do a program called A Revenge of Saul, because what no one ever points out is that Saul is the name in Greek, or Saul is the name in Roman, if you will, or let's just say Greek, but in Hebrew is Paul. So Paul shows up as Saul later on in the New Testament, and Saul gets his revenge because David takes the throne from Saul in the Old Testament and becomes a progenitor of the bloodline that ultimately will birth a quote unquote Christ. But then Saul comes later on as Paul and creates a version of a religion based on this particular bloodline, but makes it all of his own, or all for Rome. And that is what's called Christianity today. It's a religion about Christ that has nothing to do with Christ. It wasn't formed by Christ. It wasn't made by Jesus. It wasn't necessarily put into motion by him. It wasn't called, he never called it Christianity, right? Paul did. After he becomes Paul from transforming Scorpio from Saul on the road to Damascus, and then he reappropriates what Jesus's brother James is doing with his apostles and his pack of followers, and he creates a form of religion called Christianity. So that was the revenge of Saul. That even though David took Saul's trajectory, he took his swag in the Old Testament. Yes, Saul gets reiterated as Saul of Tartar in the New Testament, and they swagger jack the entire religion from him. Tarsus, my bad. Paul of Tarsus. And Tarsus is a location, I think it's either in Syria or Turkey, or on the border of both. Now I'm gonna do a cross reference. 1 Kings 12:27. If these people go up to offer sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, their hearts will return to their Lord, Rehoboam, king of Judah. Then they will kill me and return to Rehoboam, king of Judah. After seeking advice, the king made 2 golden calves and said to the people, going up to Jerusalem is too much for you. Here, O Israel, are your gods who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Right? So they continuously are duping them to follow false idols. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to do the work. That's why you can't skip leg day, because you can be tempted by someone giving you the option to take the easy way out. Like, yo, you got to go up that mountain to see that Lord, and you just thinking about your hamstrings. This is why they said that he had to hamstrung the horses. How do you deduce a people to non-activity where they're just susceptible to get wherever you give them? You make them scared to work their hamstrings, right? They skip leg day. They won't carry their own cross. They're gonna leave it up to you. They're gonna be like, nah, I'll just pay you to do it for me. That's not how we're gonna get our blessings. That's not how we're not gonna retain our blessings. There has to be a sacrifice. Can't skip leg day, right? Because it's gonna be called upon you to carry your cross up, up that mountain, Calvary. Okay? Don't ascribe nobody to do it for you, or you will never reap the rewards of that sacrifice. They will on your behalf. And that's what we're looking at. All right. Let's let's go to let's go to the next one. Job 11:9. Zophar rebukes Job. They are higher than the heavens. What can you do? They are deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Their measure is longer than the earth and wider than the sea. If he comes along to imprison you or convenes a court, who can stop him? Um, so this is Zophar rebuking Job, and Job is um, Job is lamenting about his disfavor for God, who originally blessed him with multitudes and plentiful. You know what I'm saying? And then he went sour on him and became the biggest hater. This is a good question. What is the leg day workout we're supposed to be doing, if that makes sense? This um, exercising, your mind. You feel me? I mean, also like literally also doing squats for your legs, because your leg strength is the closest indicator to longevity, but also you doing leg work is going to fortify your will and determinations to not skip out on certain things, to have the fortitude when you don't feel like doing something to do it. But it's also a clear indicator of your longevity. And for men in particular, the only things that induce the production in your body of testosterone is working your forearms and working your what are these joints here called? Not the quads. What's the front of the legs called? I don't even know why I'm jacking this up. Oh, they are the quads because they're the fours. So forearms, which are four, and quads, those are your 44s, right? Right in your body, right in your anatomy, right in front of us, that is just staring us back in our face. And these are the for the men in particular, these are the areas on your body that help create testosterone. Yes, your thigh muscles, your quads, and your forearms, right? These are things that you should be always working on to strengthen for your own will, fortitude, and determination, right? But mentally, our leg day is just doing things such as this, asking some of these critical questions, getting out of the fanfare of fanaticism. The word makes us feel a certain way, right? But are we asking the questions that we need to ask? Let's go to the next one. Proverbs 11:9. Dishonest scales. Yeah. The righteous man is delivered from trouble. In his place, the wicked man goes in. With his mouth, the ungodly man destroys his neighbor. But through knowledge, the righteous are rescued. When the righteous thrive, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, There are shouts of joy. You know, this is where I foresee us moving to as a people, right? But it takes a clear and deliberate embracing of consciousness, because consciousness in the form of quote unquote information, these are the things that can help disprove the rumors about you that are not true. Our people, melanated people diasporically, are suffering from brand damage that needs to be repaired, right? The world is operating, or the world is moving off of lies told about us that, have been told to us to such an extent that now we even believe them ourselves, and we have become self-perpetuators of these lies. Feel me? We got to give the lies back. We got to stand on information. Like, one of the main lies that are doing us in is, the Darwinism, right? The theory of evolution, and how these eugenicists specifically speak to our inferiority. We have to push back on these narratives, because there's so much new scientific proof, there's so much information that will help fortify a argument against it, that we could kick it in the butt and send it on its way. But then we got to stand on the principles of being those people that we're speaking about, who don't have an inferior intellect but have a superior one, right? Our cosmic supremacy comes by way of our covenant with this melanin, our cosmic spacesuit. What does science say about it in the here and now? What advantage is it giving you that we can stand on? Right? And we're not utilizing our rebranding for purposes to make somebody else feel inferior or to step on, stand on them. It's not needed to do that. That's not how we carry power. We've always made this planet better for everyone to cohabit here. Okay. Yes. And we definitely need to disprove this concept of the curse, which is a mistranslation of the original narrative, right? People have been moving off of mistranslations as it pertains to us, and we've been wearing it like beasts of burdens. We got to give it back. We got to give it back. James 3:6 as an amazing cross reference to what we're speaking about. The tongue also is a fire, a world of wickedness amongst the parts of the body. It pollutes the whole person, sets the course of his life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. That's deep. That's deep. So this is the tongue being a double-edged sword, because again, us being made in the image of our creator, you have the ability to incant and to create with tonality, with, you know, at first it was not just the word, it was the sound. And sound is responsible for vibration, and vibration is what matriculates form into existence. So we have that opportunity and the ability to create as well, as creators, as co-creators, as, small creators, as opposed to the big C. You got the small C, the big C, you know what I mean? But that tongue, yes, the power of life and death is in it. So you have to yield that sword very carefully, or you can literally cut yourself and bleed out to death. You feel me? Yes, that's why the vocation of music is the very top tier. When they look at the Masonic chart, there's something called the 7 steps of the liberal arts, right? And this is all masonry. This is what the Masonic liberal arts are based upon, the quadrivium, right? And at the very top of that peak of the 7 liberal arts is music, because music brings all of those principles together in a beautiful way. Um, it combines all of them together. You know what I'm saying? Pardon me, y'all. Sorry. Astronomy is at the top, but you get it. Music is, yes. Music is, at the pinnacle point, and there's a reason for that, right? So we got to protect our music, and we have to prioritize protecting our musicians, the people that are responsible for making this beautiful art, this consortium of of art and science, the beauty of it, right? I'm totally enmeshed by the beauty of music. Um, Shout out to Outkast, who have just been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? Thank you to my father, Mr. Moreland, for raising me in a household of jazz. I was fighting it. I was fighting it as a child. Ooh, I was fighting it. You know what I'm saying? Because he was hating on hip hop, and I didn't like the juxtaposition. Because I'm like, I'm supposed to listen to this jazz, nigga. And jazz taught me a lot, and I'm able to appreciate it a whole lot more at this phase and age of my existence than I was as a youngster. So I'm appreciative. Thank you, Dad. Ecclesiastes 11:9. Enjoy your years. Yeah, talk about it. So if a man lives many years, let him rejoice in them all, but let him remember the days of darkness, for they will be many. Everything that come is futile. Rejoice, O young man, while you are young, and let your heart be glad in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these things God will bring you to judgment. So banish sorrow from your heart and cast off pain from your body, for youth and vigor are fleeting. That one was deep. You know what I'm saying? That one was deep. We'll do a cross reference and give some commentary on it. Galatians 6:7. Do not be deceived. God is not to be mocked. Whatever a man sows, he will reap in return. The one who sows to please his flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. But the one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. And if you think of spirit as breath, and you think of spirit as spirit or breath as spirit, and then they say that breath is, let's say, the great cataloger of things that you say and things that you don't say, right? Because the angel that's recording all of your actions and activities, think of it as breath. Think of it as the spirit that's always with you. You feel me? It's traveling with you. It knows you better than you know yourself. And it speaks to the fact that you have been successfully in favor of the Most High every single day that you're able to wake up and to breathe, right? That is evidence that you have completed the task. That's evidence that you have fallen in favor with your creator. That's evidence that you are, right, 100% right and exact and correct. Everything that you've done has been approved because you're still here taking a breath. You're still here extrapolating or extracting the blessings from the creator itself, which is life, which is our ability to engage in this life every day is through the faculty of breathing. The day that you stop breathing is the day that you have, you failed. You've given up the ghost, right? You've fallen out of favor, if you will. And that just means you have just been selected to be leveled up for another experience. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel that any of it is negative. I'm not speaking about it in those. terms. So for those of us who have lost family members who are near and dear to us, if I could offer some words of solace, know that those ancestors are in transitional periods and their time here has been used in a way in which will be best serving to phase two of their existence. And that phase two of their existence could be phase 2 million. We don't know how long they've been here doing this. You know what I'm saying? But it's a continuum, and you too will volunteer for it. And you too have volunteered for it because you're in the cycle. The evidence of it is that you tapped in and you here now. So you came from somewhere, and to there you're going back. Why be afraid? Why have trepidation? Right? Why? 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 The reversal of fortunes. You're going back to from whence you came to go forward. Okay? Enjoy your years. Enjoy your years while you're here. And I want to get into I've been doing things in this present day with my physical form that has helped my biological age. I don't I don't want to come across like I'm stunting. And there's other areas of my life that I need work on. So if I get one thing right, that don't mean I'm 100% right. I'm still working. I'm a work in progress. But I have been able to marry myself to repetition. I've been able to marry myself to consistency. And the other day, when I was on the digital scale, they told me that my biological age is 40. Now I'll be 50 in my chronological age next Friday. I think that that's dope. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that I need to utilize it. I'm not shaming nobody else. I'm saying that in this lifetime, we have found ways that we can get the best out of this experience, and we can be eternally young, but let that not exclude the beauty of one growing up. Let that not exclude the beauty of knowing that there are definitely gifts that come with being refined. I don't want to use the word old. You know what I'm saying? These are things that we can achieve in this lifetime. And people are paying millions of dollars and doing all sorts of surgeries, and they're lined up to get robotic enhancements, right? In order to achieve the things that we can do ourselves if we're willing to go into the gauntlet and say, I want to transmute pain into pleasure. But in order to do that, I have to go through pain to get there, right? So I had to develop a different philosophy altogether on what pain felt like, on what being, you know, not necessarily, you know what I'm saying, being all the way up initially, sacrificing to get there, to get the things that you want out of life. You know, these are things that I'm learning at a later phase of my life. I'm a late bloomer. I always tell people that, but it's okay. I give myself permission. I forgive myself. Um, I allow myself to take my time. I used to be real hard on myself because I don't have children. There's certain things that I don't have in life yet that I covet. I give myself a lot of grace, and it has helped with minimizing my stress levels. Right? Let me move forward. Um, Isaiah 11:9, the root of Jesse. The infant will play by the cobra's den, and the toddler will reach into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the sea is full of water. On that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will seek him, and his place of rest will be glorious. Jeremiah 11:9, the broken covenant. Yet they would not obey or incline their ears, but each one followed the stubbornness of his evil heart. So I brought on them all of the curses of this covenant I had commanded them to follow, but they did not keep. And the Lord told me, there is a conspiracy amongst the men of Judah and the residents of Jerusalem. Again, always making a distinction. They have returned to the sins of their forefathers who refused to obey my words. They have followed other gods to serve them. The house of Israel and the house of Judah have broken the covenant I made with their fathers. Right? Always making a distinction. Jeremiah 5:26 as a cross reference. For amongst my people are wicked men. They watch like fowlers lying in wait. They set a trap to catch men. Like cages full of birds, so their houses are full of deceit. Therefore, they have become powerful and rich. They have grown fat and sleek and have excelled in the deeds of the wicked. They have not taken up the cause of the fatherless that they may prosper. Sound like he talking about ice, right? And my Trump for we're in the White House talking about the fat drug. The fat drug. Your president is something else. Ezekiel 11:9. Evil in high places. Yes. You fear the sword, so I will bring the sword against you, declares the Lord God. I will bring you out of the city and deliver you into the hands of foreigners, and I will execute judgments against you. You will fall by the sword, and I will judge you, even to the borders of Israel. Then you will know that I am the Lord. Yeah, he got smoke. He got smoke for somebody underneath his house. Somebody under his roof done pissed him off. Who you think it could be? Jeremiah 24:9 is a cross reference. I will make them a horror and an offense to all of the kingdoms of the earth, a disgrace and an object of scorn, ridicule, and cursing wherever I have banished them. And I will send against them sword and famine and plague until they have perished from the land that I gave to them and their fathers. Who could he be talking about? Because he talking greasy, right? Who can he talk? Who is he talking about? Do you want to volunteer, right, to put your head underneath fire and brimstone? Who can he be talking about? Daniel 11:9, kings of the south and the north. Again, shout out to Outcash. He will take even their gods captive to Egypt with their metal images and their previous vessels of silver and gold. For some years, he will stay away from the king of the north, who will invade the realm of the king of the south and then return to his own land. But his sons will stir up strife and assemble a great army, which will advance forcibly, sweeping through like a flood, and will carry and again carry the battle as far as his fortress. Mm. Hosea 11:9, God's mercy on Israel. How could I give you up, O Ephraim? How could I surrender you, O Israel? How could I make you like Admah? How could I treat Zeboim? My heart is turned within me. My compassion is stirred. I will not execute the full fury of my anger. I will not turn back to destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not man, the Holy One amongst you, and I will not come in wrath. They will walk, Lord, roar like a lion. When his children will come trembling from the west. From the west. Exodus 34:6. Then the Lord passed in front of Moses and called out, the Lord God is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in loving devotion and faithfulness, maintaining loving devotion to 1,000 generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Yet he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. He will visit the iniquity of the fathers on their children and grandchildren to the third and fourth generations. Lord, Lord, Lord. Who could he be talking about? Who can he be talking about? The doomed flock. Zechariah 11:9. And in 1 month I dismissed 3 shepherds. My soul grew impatient with the flock, and their souls also detested me. Then I said, I will no longer shepherd you. Let the dying die and the perishing perish, and let those who remain devour one another's flesh. Damn. Jesus. Who could he be talking about? Ezekiel 34:10. This is what the Lord God says. Behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will demand from them my flock and remove from them tending the flock, so that they can no longer feed themselves. For I will deliver my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. Right? So think about the shepherds like priests or preachers. Thinking about how the priests and the preachers are fleecing the people right now and really showing their hand, really treating their people like sheep, right? What happens if the black church loses its viability, its standing in black America, and these people will no longer feed priests and these preachers to get these Bentleys and these Rolls Royces and what have you? I seen a clip going around where they was calling around to the food banks. They was calling the churches for assistance for people that needed help. And the church was supposed to be a main institution in communities to help people in their times of need. Like now, they ain't got no bread for nobody. Imagine what would happen if the churches were defrocked. Yes, right? And support of the people of the sheeple. What would happen to these alleged, supposed main institutions in our community that have done little to nothing to sustain the people in the community? How is there 4 blocks, 4 churches on 1 block, and then the blocks is run down? They got trap houses and bandos in them. I don't think that this was the full intent of how these houses of worship allegedly was supposed to play out as being the backbone of community. Our people are being fleeced, and it looks. Mark 11:9. Right? Why I'm marking that Matthew? Hold on. Give me 1 second. I don't know why Matthew ain't up there. Y'all all right? Hopefully so. Hopefully so. Yeah, what's going on? Why Matthew wasn't up there? How did I miss? Jesus testifies about John. All right, let's get it. We're in the New Testament now. Otherwise, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? Look, those who wear fine clothes are found in kings' palaces. What then did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, behold, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. right? So Jesus meets John the Baptist or sees John the Baptist and understands that John the Baptist is a harbinger or a herald of things to come, right? Because one always makes and prepares the way for the other. To get that alley oop, catch that alley oop and get that slam dunk. Prophets should work together to fulfill one another's prophecies, if you will. With that being said, you know, I'm literally I'm watching this Hopi prophecy, this Blue Star Kachina play out. What a beautiful thing. For all of the times that I was willing to be called crazy, I'm so glad that, I have enough wherewithal to listen to that spirit inside of me. And that spirit be like, man, fuck that shit, man. Fuck that shit. You don't think that they was calling Bobby crazy? You don't think they was calling Delbert crazy? And it beat them situations where, like, I came back from Arizona and I had my Fox hat on, and you know, you can't always explain yourself in the interim or the now moment, and everyone's not willing to listen. I mean, they call me crazy because I got on because I'm doing my poke thing. They call me crazy for everything, but I'll be damned if I ain't got some receipts. You feel me? So you got to stay down to come up because your time can literally be here, and the rest of the world catches up whenever they catch up. But what does your convictions look like? What do you know about yourself that is so reaffirming, right? Did it matter? It don't matter what nobody else thinks, or what they see they'll never necessarily get. You know what I'm saying? Are you firm enough in your person? Is your conviction that strong enough that you could just do you, and you don't need it to be co-signed by nobody? That's freedom. You know what I'm saying? That's freedom. And I want that for everybody that's listening to this. At some point, you should get to a place that you don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And again, you're not hurting nobody, you're just doing you. And especially if you're doing it for a higher purpose and the people not there yet, man, keep doing that thing. We need more people in the world like you. You feel me? To inspire more people in the world like myself. So I can go and tell your narrative and your story so that a child in the crowd that's hearing it could be inspired to do them and live in their imagination, and take their imagination and turn it into a multi-billion-dollar franchise one day. That's where we at. Where are the people with creative imaginations? We need them right now. You know, shout out to y'all. Y'all are the best. Mark 11:9, the triumphal entry. Many in the crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they had cut from the fields. The ones who went ahead and those who followed were shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest. Dope. Yeah, you be barefoot running through the neighborhood. Yo, when I was doing my barefoot thing, I was extreme. I'm walking through airports. I'm doing the most. And wow, like that is literally, they wanted to commit me to. I could tell people's reactions to that. They really wanted to have me committed. You know what I'm saying? Even if I had to, I'm like, look, man, I'm explaining the science to them. They they would, yeah, the programming was that thick that they really thought that I needed to be committed somewhere because I no longer wanted to cut off my electromagnetic frequency. I wanted to tap into all of this available latent energy on the planet and absorb it through the soles of my feet. And people was offended by that. It's crazy. Luke 11:9. Ask, seek, knock. I tell you, even though he will not get up to provide for him because of his friendship, yet because of the man's persistence, he will get up and give him as much as he needs. So I tell you, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks, receive, he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks, the door will be open. Yes. So even when I used to observe Mutabaraka, right? I didn't always get it because I've been seeing that brother for years since the 90s, and I didn't always have this information, and I wasn't always who I am today. So at one point in my life, I did have judgment, m- judgment minus the understanding. So I'm sure that I was also one of the people who might have looked at Mutabaraka and was like, what is he on? Like, cause he was barefoot everywhere. You know what I'm saying? He was barefoot everywhere. And I initially didn't get it, but now I do. So salute and shout out to that brother. But with that said, in terms of asking and not being afraid to ask, we're also gonna pause for the moment and remind the people that you can make a donation and tie to us at this cash app, which is Miss Harvey 917, and it's appropriate. It's appropriate. The Pope got a born day coming up. You laughed at ODB walking barefoot on Ocean Ave. So did I. So did I. Man, shout out to ODB. You know what I'm saying? Mutu Baraka taught you on Crenshaw 54th and the 6th. Oh, you a legend. In the 80s? Honest, man. You a legend. What an honor. What an honor. What a legendary honor. And I don't even got to ask, but I will. He was barefoot back then, too. Legend. Legend of legends, man. People in our lifetime, they have broken the matrix. You know what I'm saying? They have broken the spell by just by demonstrating, just through their demonstrations. You know what I mean? So I honor that brother for being himself and cracking the code on this matrix. Will I be dropping the StreamYard link? The StreamYard link to what specifically? What what did I say? What did I say? Um Peter's report at Jerusalem, Acts 11:9. No, Lord, I said, for nothing impure or unclean has come out of my mouth. But the voice spoke from heaven a second time. Do not call anything impure that God has made clean. This happened three times, and everything was drawn back up into heaven. So what do they mean? What do they mean by that? Interestingly, but the voice spoke from heaven a second time. Do not call anything impure that God has made clean. Okay. But what is that God purification process of making things clean that have been unclean, or things that have been haram that are now permissible, kosher? Mark 7:18 as a cross reference. Are you still so dull? He asks. Do you not understand? Nothing that enters a man from the outside can defile him, because it does not enter his heart, but it goes into the stomach and then is eliminated. Thus, all foods are clean. Wow. See how they hit him with the remix? Ooh, that's deep. Mm. So they're saying that the only way a man can be defiled if something seeps into his heart, right? And acts as leaden into your heart, makes your heart heavier. So you can eat things through your eyes, you can eat things through your ears, right? Not necessarily the stuff that you eating through your mouth. It only goes through the stomach and it's eliminated, right? But if we are intaking certain concepts or ideas, or we're looking at stuff, this is no nut November, so you guys shouldn't be doing porn, things of that nature, right? These are things that can compromise you spiritually, because you never know what energy that you are looking at or absorbing. You just don't know what you're participating in. You know what I'm saying? The screen is an illusion. I wouldn't recommend it. Romans 11:9, the remnant of Israel. As it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes that could not see and ears that could not hear to this very day. And David says, may their table become a snare and a trap, a stumbling block and a retribution to them. May their eyes be darkened so they cannot see, and their backs be bent forever. Mm, they putting in some work on somebody. Isaiah 6:9 is a cross reference. And he replied, go and tell his people, be ever hearing, but never understanding. Be ever seeing, but never perceiving. Make the hearts of this people calloused, deafen their ears and close their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. And turn and be healed. Shout out to all of the healers out there, and shout out to all of the people who are in need of healing, right? I hope that both of you two meet along this divine path of fellowship. And I hope that us here as Mineral Ministries, that we operate as the fulcrum or the bridge that brings those two together. I want healing for the world. I want to edify the healers. I seen this video my mama did the other day. Shout out to Mr. G. He had it on his network. And it's just something about when my mother gets into storytelling mode. And it's just not just because it's my mama. I'm not just edifying mama because she's my mama. Mamas, period. Especially, the mamas that are mamas that have something to offer in terms of mothering and nurturing, whether they did it for their community, whether they did it for their children, directly or indirectly for other people's children because they did it for their children. Just that process, the thing that women do naturally, the thing that is inside of you that comes to the forefront when you answer the calling, if you will. And I hope I'm not being offensive. Um, but just, yeah, my mother loved what she does, and she loved the process of how it all came together. And my mother's like a very innocent person in terms of, like, she's naive, if you will. But that innocence, like a young girl's innocence type thing, you know, when I hear her tell stories from that place, it just reminds me, you know, of the genuine nature of what it all means as a healer, right? Someone who just wanted to heal, someone who wanted to see the world as a better place, someone who wanted to see their people healed and not hurt, because this was during crack in the 80s, and this is during the AIDS epidemic. This is when my mother answered the calling to do something different rather than just wallow in the suffering and the pain of watching her friends turn into crackheads. You know what I'm saying? And that was a sacrifice. And I didn't always understand it as a child because it sacrificed my time with my parents. It sacrificed or my observation was it sacrificed my mother's relationship with my biological father. These are the things that I held on to as reasons for wilding out when I became old enough to make my own decisions and stand on them. And I don't regret my decisions, but at the same time, I think that what's more important and there was more everlasting is that my mother is still that same person, right? That she still wants to heal, she still wants to tell the stories, she still gets excited about, you know, the breakthroughs and people coming into the consciousness of themselves. You know what I mean? So the permanence of her mission and assignment to me again makes me pay even more homage because she never was not that person. And and regardless, we went through our spells and she still didn't change. Right? To me that's incredible. That's incredible. Genesis 2:21 and and I can't say it enough again before I move on. And it's me observing my personal experiences, but not personalizing them because I also know that everyone else has parents, everyone else has people in their lives who have set examples. I'm just saying that the way that I've learned is by observation for the most part, right? And the people, my parents, both of them have showed up for service. My father's a teacher. He wants people to be smarter and have more knowledge of themselves. And my mother's a healer and she wants people to be healthier and have more knowledge of themselves, right? In that regard, both of them operating in the same capacity of wanting to educate people and getting a gleeful rush out of seeing people embrace what it is that they have to offer that helps those people become better individuals. And it was never to become millionaires. It was never, to break the bank. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that that's the dopest shit ever. I really do. You know, for what it's worth. We need more people that actually care, genuinely care. You know, and for that, I'm just so thankful of being raised in such an environment. And this is like, yeah. Genesis 2:21. So the Lord caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he slept, he took one of the man's ribs and closed up the area with flesh. And from the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made a woman and brought her to him. And the man said, "This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman, for out of man she was taken." And that's dangerous, right? Man is a direct result and a direct reflection of his mother's mitochondrial DNA. So when we play with religion like that, right, and we skew the actual science, and I wrote a poem about how this turned a lot of my peers and myself, right? It gave us permission to look at women if we chose to look at them as inferior. We had the we had the backdrop. You feel me? Or as the 5%ers say, secondary but necessary, right? And I watched that get misused. I watched it get weaponized to a degree where women were never on the um they were never on the receiving end of that, where they could benefit from it, right? I watch people utilize that for all sorts of mistreatment of women. And I watch men devalue their love for their mothers because it was never given in a scriptural sense. That's a very dangerous lie, that a fable or fictional account of creation that needs to be challenged. And we got to tell the truth, you know what I'm saying, and shame the devil. And when we plan in religion, especially in this version of it with these books, we have to understand that this has been super edited and they took out all references to the divine nature of femininity. And I don't want to get into this whole thing about whether God was a woman or a man. I think that the appropriate answer would be, both. And we we're not gonna get up out of whatever situation we're in if we're not restorative, even just in our minds, of the purpose that a woman brings to life within itself, right? We have to not, we got to get from underneath this indoctrination. It has done us an incredible disservice. You know what I mean? And it makes no sense and it makes us look crazy. Um, Mitochondrial DNA, ribosomes and chromosomes, not ribs. You know what I'm saying? You literally get it from your mama, whether you are a boy or girl, male or female, man or a woman. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what your relationship is with your mama right now, you still get it from your mama. And knowing that would forge a different appreciation for her, and you wouldn't play about her, and you wouldn't let nobody else play with her. And then we can restore her to the place that she belongs so we all can get back, right? And reverse, and get back to the reverse of the fortunes, if you will. Paul and the false apostles, 2 Corinthians 11:9. I robbed other churches by accepting their support in order to serve you. And when I was with you and in need, I was not a burden of anyone, for the brothers who came from Macedonia supplied my needs. I have refrained from being a burden to you in any way, and I will continue to do so. As surely as the truth of Christ is in me, this boasting of mine will not be silenced in the regions of Acacia. The faith of Abraham and Sarah, this is in Hebrews 11:9. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went without knowing where he was going. By faith, he dwelt in the promised land as a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city within foundations, whose architect and builder is God. You know, Genesis 12:1 is a cross reference. Then the Lord said to Abram, before he was Abraham, leave your country, your kindred, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Right? Mm. Revelations, Revelations 11:9, and we are here at the finality of today's sermon. The witnesses killed and raised. Revelations. Their bodies will lie in the street of the great city, figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was also crucified. For 3.5 days, all peoples and tribes and tongues and nations will view their bodies and will not permit them to be laid in the tomb. And those who dwell on the earth will gloat over them and will celebrate and send one another gifts because these two prophets had tormented them. Hmm. As a cross reference, Matthew 24:14, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all of the world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And so, boys and girls, one more cross reference, Daniel 12:4. But you, Daniel, shut up these words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will roam to and fro, and knowledge will increase. So that's where we find ourselves at in conclusion, right? Let's go to the Quran real quick. Quran chapter 11. Let's see if we can finish off in the 11th chapter of the Quran and what it says. This is HUD, all right? 11:9. Let's go to 11:7 and read from 11:7 to 9. It is he who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and his throne was upon the waters, in order to test you, which of you is best in conduct. And if you were to say, you will be resurrected after death, those who disbelieve would say, this is nothing but plain witchcraft. And if we postpone their punishment until a stated time, they would say, what holds it back? On the day when it reaches them, it will be averted from them, and what they used to ridicule will besiege them. If we give the human being a taste of mercy from us and then withdraw it from him, he becomes despairing and ungrateful. And if we give him a taste of prosperity after some adversity has afflicted him, he will say, troubles have gone away from me. He becomes excited and proud. Except those who are patient and do good deeds, these will have forgiveness and a great reward. Right? So there's nothing left for us to do but do random acts of kindness, right? Get out there and be the change that you want to see. You don't have to vote in order to bring about change. You can get out into the world and bring righteousness with you. You can be the fulcrum of change. You can be the example. You can be that black sheep in your family that finally shows them how it's properly done by not just living by word alone, but actually activating it, in your actions, in your walk, right? You can be the one that does not get boggled down in debates and arguments about words and concepts and ideas, but be the one that actualizes it, that becomes it. You know what I'm saying? That walks the good walk, right? And does the good deeds and magnetizes all virtuous things to you. You know? Yes. That's the way, you know, that's the way. Yes, Billy Carlson is definitely stepping up, and this is beautiful. And again, not to create too much contrast and comparisons, but I think about where Billy Carlson was at last year this time, and I think about how he was locked into a debate with a Christian community of apologists. But again, here we are a year later, and we're looking to the church to do the things that the church has been called upon to do because they have resources, they have access to community, and they have refuge. They have buildings that people can sleep in, they have buildings that people can be fed in, they have soup kitchens. They are 501c3s, so they can actually get their hands on food a lot quicker than, let's say, somebody that's working a 9 to 5 that say, a regular citizen is. They can get food sent to them. They could go and get food. They can get it at reduced prices, right? They can do the things that church is supposed to do. Yes, they can operate childcare in the capacity of which Head Start may do. They can provide WIC. They can fill all of the things that the government is doing with social programs and being accused of being a socialist government. The church can do those things with the plenitude that the church has been provided, right? And with the exceptions that the church has been afforded with its tax credits and things of that nature. Will the church do it? I have no idea, right? I have no idea. But to salute to the people who are doing it. And I got to circle the block with Billy because Billy has a app that he created that also helps people find out where food is at. And shout out to Mama Pill. She's definitely been the one that has been informing me about the things that Mr. Carson has been doing with his platform. She follows him, and she's totally enamored by the way that he utilizes his platform to help people. You know what I mean? And I feel that we all can do more, and we all will do more. And these conversations are definitely taking place behind the scenes, building coalitions. And I'm seeing whose heart is in the right place, who really wants to change, who really wants to do something and step up for the people. It's that time. You know what I'm saying? But I also will remind you that again, here at Lion Gates Mineral Ministries, you know, my ministry really, I wanna fortify the information and education around minerals, but not so we can just go out and acquire stones. Mineral nutrition, right? As I look at the definition of what even SNAP stands for, supplemental nutritional assistance, let's get back to edifying and specifying, our nutritional needs. I want us to formulate what's called a farmy, and that's an army of farmers, right? Where the minerals that we're approaching, iron and magnesium and calcium specific, what foods are going to help our people become minerally balanced? Because what we're looking at potentially is that loss of benefits is also loss of people's access to nutrition, and that loss of access to nutrition is going to complicate developmental processes in children that need this calcium, that need these particular foods. And it's not their addiction to the foods, it's their access to minerals. Even if there's trace amounts in these foods, they still need them for development. And if they're not getting them, then how are we supplementing that? You know what I'm saying? I said that I think that one of the best solutions at this time for people can possibly be sea moss. It's inexpensive and it goes a very far way if you know how to stretch it. You know what I'm saying? Spiritual nutrition assistance program. I love that. I love that. Right? So, what is our spiritual nutrition? We have to identify that. Um, because this can potentially work very well for people if they want to take a detox, if they want to take a period of time where they may appear to be without, but they also are emptying and detoxing their body and preparing their body to be 10 times stronger when they put the right things back in. So, what does that look like? Us pouring into our people, having a daily call. It might be a 6 a.m. call where we're doing meditation, where we're doing sound incantations, right? Where we're bringing in, some of the guided masters to speak confidence into people, to raise a farming. You know what I mean? So when that sun comes up, they know how to go outside and eat through the sun. Sun gazing, sunbathing, grazing. You feel me? How long can you do without? Right? We need to be a little bit more resilient in our processes of knowing that it's not starving, it's not famine. We're detoxing, we're fasting, right? And we're getting stronger in the process of doing it while our body is releasing its weaknesses. And that's what the pain is. Feel me? But we have been overindulgent on poisons. We definitely do need a detox, you know? So I just wanted to share that with you and leave that with you, and also remind you that you can make donations over here, Miss Harvey 917. And I'm going to be doing the farming out process. I'm going to be showing people how to make mushrooms, how to make potatoes. We're going to be planting some more kale. I got a whole bunch of farming stuff recently, and we're really gonna, you know, we're gonna snap into motion. We even got the bow and arrow, and we're gonna be giving. Well, we're learning archery ourselves. I can't sit up here and say we're gonna be teaching archery. You can learn along with us, but it's needed and it's necessary. These are skill sets that you have to know, especially if you out here in the country. I'm not in the city slicking anymore. So if it came down to, yo, I had to get out in the wild and hunt for myself. If I had to be a hunter and gatherer, you feel me? Could you make it happen? Right? Can you make it happen? These are needed and necessary skill sets that we have to have. And we have to show up to these challenges gleeful and accept it as a challenge. What it is. It's gonna level you up in life. It's not gonna make you worse. It's not gonna make you hate life. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna do none of those things. Brother Gene, or grow where you are. I'm not quite. I used to do programming with a brother, and he used to have a movement called I Grow You Grow, Mr. Anderson. But I don't know. Can you inbox me or hit me to the brother Gene? I would love to know more about that. We want to build a cross country coalition for farmers called the Farmy. And my dream was always to use the I-95, I-85 corridor to bring food from the south up to the north and be spiritually supplementing their nutrition, you know what I'm saying, with superior produce that we grow in the South on land that is so activated. Black gold is what we call the soil, that has so much nutrients in it. They're so fortified. I mean, I have so many ways to put um, amazing, powerful nutrients back into the soil to remediate the soil and to grow produce that's like superfoods. Oh, shout out Black Ice. You need to holler, please. Right? You need to holler. Yeah, grounding as well. Again, that's part of the protocol. Sun gazing, sun grazing, and sunbathing. You'll be doing that while you're grounding as well. Between the hours of sunrise and 10 a.m. So that's like from 7 to 10 is when you can go and get your upgrade. Even if you're in areas that may be a little bit more chillier, you still got to push yourself for 5 or 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? This is and expose your gut, your microbiome to the sun, because that quote unquote infrared that red energy, that red sun that's come, that red light that's coming off of that sun during that period in time, it is permeating through your skin cells and is activating, right, your microbiome and your mitochondria to do processes that cannot be replicated any other way. And this is how we, especially for those of us that are in front of these screens most of the day and this blue light toxicity, we got to find a balance. We got to find a balance, and we have to stop tearing our own internal body up, keeping up with the Joneses. So I did enough preaching and proselytizing um, on a Sunday, right? Want to say thank you once again. Ah, sun worship. I'm gonna leave you out with this. I think that this is key, and it goes into a lot of what we spoke about today. And these are part of my epistles as well. They just might sound like poems, but this is part of my Pope Pablo epistles. Just like if Paul wrote 14 out of the 22 letters that ends up becoming the the New Testament, these are the new epistles of Pablo. They jealous because you the one, embellished by the sun, cherished by the sun, connected to the sun, respected by the sun, godly. They smell like hot dogs, soggy like relish on a bun. Not me. The wet of my hair stretched to the air, follicles spiral like molecules towards the sun rays, like Horus I sun gaze, and sun graze and sunbathe, honorable. Flesh turned bronze as copper, their neck turned red as lobsters, hibachi. I'm talking cocky because I was favored by my creator. I've labored to love my neighbor, but he's a hater. Stop me when you heard a lie. I was the first to die, which means I was the first to live. Wasn't birthed by goats, nope. So my whiz don't give birth to kids. And she wasn't birthed from a rib. That's a fairy tale to let every male to dishonor his mama. They cut her open for her fallopian and she died on the operating table like Donda, your honor. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Can you violate your pledge and tell secrets, learn the secret? Or do we keep it in confusion for the sake of the illusion? How you colluding? You do know that we losing. We desperately need an improvement and upgrade to the hardware of substrate of the God tier. If you up late, you losing God years. These sun rays can be seen as God's tears. You should sunbathe as God appears, holding the torch like that statue in the arbor pair. The God is here. They look to the sky expecting God to appear. Is he on that city in the sky parked in the air? Yeah. What type of arms you prepared to respond to the fear? Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got. But with that being said, yeah, Miss Donda, your son needs a visit. Miss Donda, your son needs his head checked. Miss Donda, your son is violating your mitochondria. We're gonna pray for Ye. We're gonna pray for Ye. And with that said, man, peace. Jesus.